For years, you've been told one story about XRP. You've heard it from Ripple, the news, and probably your favorite YouTubers. The story is simple. XRP is a faster, cheaper way to send money. It's the modern fix for the rusty old SWIFT system that powers global finance. A neat and tidy solution for cross-border payments. But what if that wasn't the real story? What if that was just the foot in the door? The cover story, carefully crafted to get inside the high walls of traditional finance. The real plan, the one quietly assembled over the last decade, is something much, much bigger. It's a plan that has less to do with just moving money and everything to do with rewiring the entire global financial system. This isn't just some wild theory from a random social media account. This is the story hiding in plain sight, confirmed by the architects of the system themselves, regulated CEOs, 9-figure acquisitions, and strategic moves that have gone largely unnoticed. The dots are all there, and today, we're going to connect them. Before we can get where Ripple is going, you have to appreciate how brilliant their starting point was. The payments narrative wasn't a lie. It was the perfect pitch to a world desperate for an upgrade. Think about the system we have now. The financial plumbing that moves trillions of dollars every single day was mostly designed in the 1970s. It's slow, expensive, and a hopelessly fragmented relic of a pre-internet world. Ever wonder why an international wire transfer takes 3 to 5 business days and costs a small fortune? It's because your money doesn't go in a straight line. It hops between a series of correspondent banks, each with its own ledger, its own hours, and its own fees. To make this work, banks have to park trillions of dollars in accounts all over the world, known as Nostro and Vostro accounts. That's trillions of dollars in dead capital frozen in place, just to grease the wheels of a slow, clunky system. It's not just payments. When you buy a stock, it feels instant, right? Wrong. The trade actually settles on a T+2 basis, meaning the real exchange of your cash for the stock takes 2 whole days. For those 2 days, your money and the stock are in limbo, exposed to the risk that the other side of the deal could go bust before it's finalized. And then there's the biggest problem of all, locking up hundreds of trillions in value. Illiquid assets. This is everything from real estate and private equity to fine art. You can't just sell 1% of the Empire State Building on a Saturday night if you need cash. These assets are incredibly valuable, but they're trapped by old financial rails that are too slow and fragmented to handle them. This is the world Ripple walked into with a very compelling story. They said, look at this broken system. We can fix it. With the XRP ledger, transactions could settle in 3 to 5 seconds for a fraction of a penny. Through products like on-demand liquidity, ODL, banks could use XRP as a bridge asset, freeing up all that trapped capital in their Nostro, Vostro accounts and settling payments in real time. It was genius. It wasn't a declaration of war on the banks. It was an offer of help, a partnership, and it worked. Ripple methodically built a global network, working with regulators, mastering compliance, and learning the rulebook of global finance from the inside. While the crypto world was busy debating if XRP could replace SWIFT, Ripple was laying the groundwork. The payment story wasn't the end game. It was the Trojan horse that got them invited past the gates, welcomed as a friend. And while everyone was watching the horse, Ripple was quietly getting ready to unload an army. For years, the idea that Ripple had a bigger vision was mostly debated in the corners of the XRP community. But then, the whispers started coming from inside the establishment itself. The mask began to slip. A key moment came with a stunning declaration from Graham Rodford, the CEO of Arcax. Arcax isn't some crypto startup. It's the UK's first and only regulated digital asset exchange, broker, and custodian, authorized by the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA. This is as establishment as it gets. Rodford went on the record stating that the industry had hit a tipping point for mainstream adoption of digital assets for real-world use cases. Then came the bombshell. Arcax publicly extended its collaboration with Ripple to bring hundreds of millions of dollars of tokenized real-world assets, RWAs, onto the XRP ledger. Let's be crystal clear about what this means. This isn't about payments. This is about turning financial instruments like equities and money market funds into tokens and using the XRP ledger as the settlement layer for a new digital marketplace. This single move from a highly regulated entity confirmed what many had suspected. Ripple's ultimate goal isn't just to move money, it's to move all value. Suddenly, Ripple's seemingly separate strategic moves snapped into focus. This wasn't a random string of business decisions. It was the deliberate assembly of a full-stack financial machine. Let's connect the dots. Dot 1. The custody empire. In institutional finance, nothing moves without regulated custody. A pension fund can't just plug a hardware wallet into a server. They need qualified, insured, and regulated vaults for their digital assets. It's non-negotiable. So, what did Ripple do? In May 2023, Ripple acquired Medico, a Swiss-based leader in institutional digital asset custody, for $250 million. Medico's client list is a who's who of global finance. Citibank, BNP Paribas, and Standard Chartered are just some of the giants who rely on its technology. With one move, Ripple didn't just partner with a custody provider, they became the custody provider for some of the biggest banks in the world. By owning the foundational layer, the secure vaults where tokenized assets will live, Ripple positioned itself at the absolute heart of this new economy. Dot 2. The regulatory masterstroke. For a decade, Ripple played a masterful game of regulatory chess. While others took an ask for forgiveness, not permission approach, Ripple engaged with regulators from day one. The grueling, multi-year legal battle with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission was a pivotal victory, concluding with a landmark ruling that XRP in secondary sales is not a security. This provided a level of legal clarity in the U.S. that few other digital assets have. But the checkmate move came in late 2025. On December 12th, the U.S. Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, OCC, granted Ripple conditional approval for a national trust bank charter. Let that sink in. Ripple is now on a path to becoming a federally supervised national trust bank in the United States. This is the ultimate stamp of legitimacy, moving Ripple from the regulatory sidelines directly into the core of the U.S. banking system. This charter isn't for taking consumer deposits. It's specifically for fiduciary activities like custody and settlement. It provides a supervised federal path for Ripple's stablecoin and tokenization business, and could pave the way for Ripple to gain access to a Federal Reserve master account. This is what it means to become bank grade. Dot 3. The engine of liquidity, RLUSD. The final piece of the puzzle is Ripple's own stablecoin, RLUSD. This isn't just another competitor to Tether or USDC. It's the lifeblood designed to flow through the new financial arteries Ripple has built. In a world where you're trading a tokenized piece of a skyscraper for a tokenized government bond, you need a stable, reliable, and highly regulated digital dollar to settle the trade instantly. That's RLUSD. And because Ripple is now on a path to becoming a trust bank, RLUSD is positioned to be one of the most compliant stablecoins on the planet, with its reserves subject to federal oversight. It's also being deployed across multiple blockchains, ensuring it can move securely across the entire crypto ecosystem. So let's step back and look at the picture these dots create. Ripple has acquired the regulated vaults, custody. They've secured the highest levels of regulatory approval on the path to becoming a bank themselves. And they've created the native settlement currency for this new economy. This isn't a company focused on payments anymore. This is a company that has systematically built an end-to-end ecosystem for the tokenization of all the world's assets. The cover story is over. The real plan is in motion. So what does this all mean? Why does building the plumbing for a tokenized world matter? It matters because it represents one of the biggest shifts in financial history. A report from Boston Consulting Group, BCG, and ADDX projects that the market for tokenized illiquid assets will explode to $16 trillion by 2030. A separate report from BCG and Ripple projects a market size of nearly $19 trillion by 2033. This isn't a niche market. It is the future of finance itself. Let's paint a picture of what this tokenized world looks like. Imagine your house is no longer an illiquid asset. Instead, its equity is represented by digital tokens on the XRP ledger. You need cash for a sudden expense on a Sunday afternoon. You sell 10% of your home's equity on a decentralized exchange and receive RLUSD in your wallet in seconds. The market is open 24/7. Settlement is instant. Liquidity is global. Imagine a startup raising capital. Instead of navigating the gate-kept world of venture capital, it tokenizes a portion of its future revenue. Supporters can buy these tokens, becoming direct stakeholders. As the company earns revenue, a smart contract automatically distributes a tiny fraction of every dollar to token holders in real time. This is the promise of tokenization, creating liquid, 24/7, accessible markets for nearly every asset on Earth. It's about unleashing the hundreds of trillions of dollars currently locked up in illiquid forms onto a global financial layer. For years, the technology to do this existed in theory, but Ripple's genius was recognizing that tech alone isn't enough. The real barriers were regulation, trust, and institutional infrastructure. And they have spent the last 10 years systematically dismantling those barriers, not as an antagonist, but as a partner. The XRP ledger is purpose-built for this future. Unlike other blockchains, its design is focused on what institutions demand: speed, low cost, scalability, and built-in compliance features. We're already seeing this happen. Archax is bringing assets like money market funds on-chain, allowing for high-speed settlement that eliminates traditional delays. Of course, this future isn't guaranteed. Critics point to centralization concerns around Ripple's influence, though the network is designed to become more decentralized over time. The volatility of XRP itself remains a factor, though the growing role of the RLUSD stablecoin is explicitly designed to address this. And competition is fierce, with other blockchains aggressively pursuing the same tokenization prize. But the evidence is mounting. When a highly regulated CEO like Graham Rodford says, "We have hit the tipping point," and partners to bring hundreds of millions in real-world assets to the XRP ledger, it's time to pay attention. The story of XRP was never just about payments. That was the first chapter, the brilliant opening act that got the world's attention and a seat at the table with the guardians of the old financial order. The real story, unfolding through billion-dollar acquisitions, strategic regulatory moves, and quiet infrastructure development, is about tokenization. It's about building the architecture for a future where any asset can be digitized, fractionalized, and traded instantly on a global ledger. Ripple has assembled all the pieces: the regulated custody, the institutional on-ramps, the bank-grade charter, and the native digital dollar to power it all. They are no longer just pitching a faster Swift. They are positioning the XRP ledger to become a foundational operating system for a multi-trillion-dollar market. The question is no longer if institutional finance will adopt this technology. The question being answered right now in the boardrooms of global banks and by the actions of regulated exchanges is which blockchain it will be built on. Ripple has spent a decade making sure they are the inevitable answer. What do you think? Is this Ripple's master plan finally coming to light? Or is there more to the story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this helped you connect the dots, do me a favor and hit that like button. It helps get this information out to more people. Make sure you subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. We're just scratching the surface.